Today we're going to try to answer one very basic question. And the question is, how do we reinvent work so it doesn't suck the life out of us? I mean, most people actually do like to work, right? I think they do. I think you go into a bakery and you become a baker because you like to bake. And then if you're somebody that does landscaping, you want to be outside. You picked a job based on the idea that this to be a good job for me. And then what happens? Somebody inserts a boss between you and the work, and the next thing you know, it's a living hell. It's no surprise that one of the things you most hear are people don't quit their job. They quit their boss. Who here has a bad boss story? Of course you do. We all do. I've had bad bosses. In fact, I've been a bad boss. And I tell you what, you go to any chat room you want and you can type in the topic of a bad boss and find just a Niagara Falls of stories over and over and over again. And they all say the same thing about the bad bosses. But here's the thing. As much as I've been really vocal about bad bosses, I don't think any segment of our population at work really wants to go. They don't go to work saying, I'm going to get to work. I'm going to destroy somebody's soul today. I called this presentation as what got us here isn't going to get us there. What got us here is not going to get us there. There was a method of leading that started in World War II. People came back from World War II and they went to work at factories and there was overall an unspoken understanding. And that unspoken understanding goes like this: I'm going to work hard for you, you're going to pay me, and probably 45, 46 years later, I'll retire. And it's based most definitely on the idea of fairness and caring. But over time, that's eroded, hasn't it? Over time, we've gotten a worse and a worse deal out of work. Because, I'll give you an example. In 1970 to 2025, the average worker's salary has gone up 18%. That same time, 1970 to today, the CEO's payment, their salary has gone up 1,046%. And so you end up with this disparity. What in the world is happening? I know I've gone in to apply for a job. And most of the time in my career, you go in there like a sad character out of a Charles Dickens novel, hat in hand, and say, please, sir, can I have a position? Why is all the power in their hands? Because forever we've had an unemployment rate at 6, 7, 8%, sometimes as much as 9 and 10%. And when you have 8% unemployment, guess what? The boss has all the power. But look, he's going to look at you and he's going to say, if you don't do what I tell you to, I'm going to fire you. And he can't. Why can't he? Because it's 8% unemployment. If it's a low skill set that we need, yeah, there's 8 people there behind you who'll be glad to take your job. I believe that there's a bigger story than what we give credit for. I'll look at this. Like I said, I have been very vocal. I've been very vocal about the bad bosses. I do believe that we need to do a lot more training. We'll get into that. But I'll tell you what, as vocal as I've been, this statistic really changed everything for me. And it probably will for you. Here's the statistic. When the average person becomes a leader at the age of 32, but they get trained to be a leader when they are 45. What do you think happens in that 13 years between that number and that number? Bad bosses, like a whole lot of bad bosses. And I want to say this, it's not their fault. Because if you're a frontline leader right now today, tell me how much training did you get? On average, we get 0 training. Now I know this worked for me. This is almost exactly my story. I was 32 years old. I was working in a TV station in Nashville, Tennessee. I was a graphic designer. I had it made. I had the greatest job in the world. I would get my assignments in the morning, written, and then I would go and sit at my desk in a darkened room and put on headphones and listen to jazz music and do great graphic design all day long. Now you ask somebody who's got graphic design skill and tell me that wouldn't be their dream job. It was fantastic. Now TV overall was a hellscape. People were in the hallway that were yelling, they were cussing each other out, people are crying, all that is happening all around me, but not me, man. I am at my desk and listening to Al Jarreau. And it was great. It was fantastic. Until one day, tragedy happened. So my boss's boss, Larry, came and sat in the office with me, which was very unusual. And I took the headphones off, and I was like, oh, this is not gonna be good. Whatever he's about to say is not gonna be good. And it wasn't. He said this, Mark quit. Well, Mark was my direct supervisor. Mark quit. And so I went and blathered about how hard it's going to be to replace him and years in the industry and stuff like that. And Larry just shut me down. He said, Mark quit, you're it. I told him I didn't want to be it. I don't want to be it. I like what I'm doing right now. And he said, well, you're either going to move up or you're going to move out, because we can't have you stuck in this position forever. So I took the job. And you know what? I did not know how to do the job. I had zero leadership training anywhere in my life. Absolutely zero. Nobody had ever trained me at all for any of it. And I asked, I went to HR and they had an HR department, but it's not like what you guys do. We had an HR department that was, in name only. And I went in and I said, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to lead a team. I didn't know how to do any of it. And the lady said, don't worry about it. She said, we'll get you trained. Don't worry about it. We'll get it to you. We'll get that to you. And I worked there another 8 years. I never got a day of training. I didn't get a book. I didn't go away for some training. I didn't get an online course. I didn't have anything. Absolutely nothing. So if you look at that bad boss problem, the bad boss problem starts with the fact that we don't train anybody. I was simply untrained. If you want to be a barber, you have to undergo a year of training. If you want a commercial driver's license so you can drive trucks, that's going to take you 6 months to a year. If you want a preschool teacher, if you want to be a preschool teacher, 2 years of training. It's amazing. But then we take this mission critical department, which is huge, and then we just say, oh, it's you. What are you going to do? Most people just simply put up with it. They hang on and they hope for the best. And that hoping for the best is not a strategy in business. We get caught up in this workplace treadmill. You know the drill. Get up every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. You get the kids fed and dressed. You get yourself fed barely and dressed poorly. And you take the dog out for a pee. Go, Buster, go. And he's thinking, listen, lady, I can't pee when somebody else is watching me. You put Buster in the house. You put the kids in the back seat. And let's talk about the car. Can we talk about the car line, folks? How is it that somehow or another we have figured out how to put a spaceship on the other side of Mars, but we can't figure out how to get this 9-year-old out of this Volvo into that classroom in under 45 minutes? And then we drive into work carefully, obeying all the highway signs, speed limits, careful lane changes. We slide into the parking lot sideways, run up the stairs, only to be met by the watch tapper. Your boss. Hey, you're late again. You were late yesterday by 8 minutes. Today it's another 6. If you don't get here on time, I'm going to find somebody else who will. And then you work all day for a boss that you hate, at work that you don't like, at work that has no meaning, working with coworkers you don't like, and you have a boss that you like to throat punch all the time. And when you get done with that day, you do the exact same thing in reverse. You drive and you pick up the kids, you go home, you make sure they get fed, you make sure they get their jammies on, you make sure their homework is done, put them in bed, and then what? Then you've got to do the dishes, you've got to clean the laundry, you've got to do this and this and this and this. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, you finally find a time to put your head on the pillow, and what's the first thing you think? I wonder if Buster ever pee-peed today. And so you put on your little slippers and you put on the robe and you go outside in the backyard and you're like, hoping Mrs. Jernigan doesn't see you because she's turned you in HOA twice. And people have just been on this treadmill so long that they don't realize, they don't have time to reflect. And that's what we're really missing, because you got to few years, and then it becomes 5 years, and then 10 years, and then decades.